Dear learners, welcome to today's lesson on completing the square using the NYAKEY'S principle. The NYAKEY'S principle is a method of completing the square that has been named after Victor NYAKEY, who introduced this new way of completing the square, or by factorizing quadratic expressions by completing the square in a unique way which is not common to many. By the end of this lesson, the learner will be able to factorize quadratic expressions by completing the square. Now, in algebra, completing the square is a technique for converting a quadratic polynomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c to form a into x minus p all squared plus q for some values of p and q. Completing the square is used in solving quadratic equations, deriving the quadratic formula, and graphing the quadratic function. There are many other functions that can be, or many other roles that can be played by completing the square. If you look into this picture right here, it gives you the standard formula for the expression of a quadratic, ax squared plus bx plus c. Since the coefficient of x squared, which is a, is the coefficient of an expression that has a power of 2, then that becomes the coefficient of the quadratic. Bx, the x there has a power of 1, so this is linear. So b becomes the linear coefficient. And the last one is constant. C is a letter that is used in representing constant. I mean numerical values or numbers that do not have any attachment to alphabets or variables. Now, if you look at the picture on the right, this is just like you are working in a harbor, or you are working in any construction field or any industrial area where you are asked to put a number of squares together to form a bigger square. So what are you trying to do here? You are putting down smaller squares to form a bigger square. Putting smaller squares together to form a bigger square or more bigger squares. So you are completing a square using squares to form more other squares. That should be a layman's expression or interpretation of what we call completing the square. The quadratic expression is the Latin word quadratus, which means squared. It is an expression involving a squared term, for example, x squared plus 1, or a product of terms, for example, 3xy minus 2x plus 1. This may be a bit confusing, but at a different level, you will understand what it means. It is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. But when you factorize that by completing the square, you will then come up with a into bracket x minus p all squared plus q. Or if you factorize completely, it will become a into x minus x1 times x minus x2. Now, the name quadratic comes from the word quad, meaning square, because the variable gets squared, like x squared. It is also called an expression of degree 2 because of the 2 on the x. It is a second degree polynomial expression you can identify a quadratic expression or second degree expression because it is an expression that has a variable that is squared and no variables with powers higher than 2 in any of the terms. Where a is not equal to 0, you can recognize standard quadratic expressions because they follow the form. And this form is ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, I've mentioned earlier that the NYAKEY'S principle is simple. Look at what we have on top here to be able to determine what exactly can be done. For example, you have an expression that has x squared minus 4x plus 3. Now, this is simple. Look at the NYAKEY'S principle. All we have to do is to make sure when you are completing the square, the value of a in the expression must be positive 1. So, x squared minus 4x plus 3. The a value is 1. So we can complete the square easily. Now, following what I have here as the NYAKEY'S principle, all I have to do is to indicate my bracket. And then I will say x minus 4 over 2 and square it. Look at what is here. Just look here carefully. You can see that we have b over 2. So what is our b? Our b is negative 4. So we divide it by 2. So negative 4 over 2. Then we have minus after that. Then we have b over 2 again all squared. So we have 4 over 2 all squared. And then we are talking about plus or minus c. So your c is 3, is plus 3. So I'll write plus 3. Now, from there, you can have x minus 4 over 2 squared minus 4 over 2 is 2, right? So remember, this is also supposed to be minus 4 over 2. So now I have a bracket. I have minus 2 all squared plus 3. Then we continue to say no. Minus 4 over 2 is minus 2. So we have x minus 2 all squared minus, now there are two negatives here. One is inside the bracket, one is outside the bracket. But since the one inside the bracket has a square, we first have to use board math to complete the bracket first. So in completing the bracket, on your calculator, the bracket minus 2 bracket close squared will give you 4. Then you have plus 3. So eventually, you will then have x minus 2 all squared, then negative 4 plus 3 give us minus 1. So in this solution, you can see that it is in the form, see, it is in the form a into x minus p, bracket close, plus q. So the value of p represents your 2, and the value of q represents -1. So that is one thing everybody must look at. Also remember that over here, you are at liberty to convert it into -2 straight away before you come down to the next level. So it is all up to you to take note of this. I urge everyone to make sure that you understand all this before we move to the next level. This is simple. All you have to do is to remember that it is important to do the work effectively. Now, let's look at the next method or the next example. You have x squared minus 6x plus 5. So in this case, remember again, you do not have to stress. All you have to do is indicate your values. So what is our value? We start, make sure the value of a is 1. So this qualifies for us to step forward. So I will indicate my bracket. I put my variable x. I put my minus 6/2 all squared. Then I put minus. I indicate another bracket. Then I put b/2 here. But my b is -6. So divided by 2. I square it. Then I have plus 5 here. So what do? So this is the first one. I know that x minus 6/2 will give us obviously 3. So I'll then square it. Then I'll say minus. I deal with the bracket first. So this will give us -3 all squared. Then after that, we say plus 5. So the next step will tell us that we have x minus 3 all squared, then minus 9 plus 5. So your calculator will tell you that minus 5 plus 4, minus 5 plus minus 9, plus 5 will give us -4. So this is just a simple way of doing it. First, take your b and divide it by 2. Our b is -6, so it just says -6/2. Then you repeat -6/2 again and square it here. Then you write down your c. Now we simplify, so -6/2 will give us -3. -6/2 will give us -3. I maintain my constant. Then I come here, I repeat x minus 3 all squared, minus, then when we solve the bracket, -3 squared will be -9. Always solve the bracket first. Don't multiply the two negatives directly. So you solve the bracket first, it will give us -3 all squared. Put a bracket on the -3 on your calculator before you square it. It will give you +9. But we already have negative here, so you repeat it here. So -9 plus 5 will give you -4. You don't have to expand this bracket, because when you expand this bracket, you are obviously going to get this expression. Once you expand this bracket and subtract 4, it will come and give you the original expression. Remember, factorization is a way of introducing bracket. That is why we've introduced a bracket. So I believe you've understood that point very well. Right. So we can take the next one. Now, This is another example. How are you going to approach it? So let's see what exactly we can do about that. So the question is, factorize this by completing the square. X squared plus 10x plus 16. So what is important here is to ensure that the coefficient of x squared is 1. Now, checking it, we have 1x squared plus 10x plus 16. So therefore, the coefficient of x squared is 1, positive 1. What else do you have to remember? Make sure that you divide b by 2 and square it. So what is our b here? B is 10. Okay, so we start. So equal to, first bracket, x plus 10, which is our b, over 2. Then what do? We square it and put minus, just as it is written here in the NYAKEY'S principle. Then we have to write b over 2 again, which is 10 over 2, but we have to square it. Then after that, what we are left with is c, and our c is plus 16. So here, all we can do now is to simplify. So 10 over 2 will give us 5. And then always maintain the minus and simplify the bracket first. So this is 5 squared. And your calculator will tell you that 5 squared is 25. And then the next thing you have to do is to ensure that you simplify the constants. These two are constants. They don't have alphabet attached to them. So negative 25 plus 16. That will give us negative 9. So this also brings us to the end of this example, showing us clearly about how we can do these things without stressing. Haven't you seen that the NYAKEY'S principle is it's just a simple method? It is a very simple method, and it helps you to unearth how to complete the square easily without doing so much. There are many other ways of completing the square. Your teacher might have taught you some. You need to learn that one too. But if you feel my method is simple, then you can go for it. Okay? Good. So we have to move on to the next example. In this example, we will look at this question. How do you determine, or how do you factorize this? How do you factorize it? The expression is x squared plus 12x plus 11. So remember, all we have to do is to introduce a bracket x plus b over 2. What is our b? 12. We divide it by 2. We square it, we put minus, then we bring b over 2 again and square it again. Then the last value is 11. We write it, that is our c. You can simplify 12 divided by 2, which will give us 6. Then you can simplify the bracket. 12 divided by 2, 6. Plus 11. Take note that whatever you write here will show up here. Have you seen that? And both of them have squares, and that is beautiful about the NYAKEY'S principle. Now, let's continue. So, this one now will maintain the minus and simplify the bracket first. So your calculator says 6 to the power of 2 will give us 36 plus 11. Now, yours is to use your calculator and press negative 36 plus 11. What do you get? Do you get negative 25? Voila. If you get that answer, clap for yourself, and then you move to the next step. All you have to remember is that it is very important to make sure that the work that you are doing is bringing results. Well, let's take another one. Are you ready? The expression 2x squared plus 8x plus 6. How do we factorize it? By completing the square. Look at this. The value of a is 2. But the rule says before you complete the square, the value of a must be positive 1. So what shall we do to the positive 2 right in front of x squared? We need to take it out as a common factor. Then, when taking it out as a common factor, I think I should write it in a simple way so that everyone can understand. So I'll write x squared all over 2. Then 8x all over 2. Then 6 over 2. I think this one makes sense. And then we have 2. I can bring a square bracket first. Now this one obviously will give us x squared. Then 2 goes here, 4. 2 goes here once. So it becomes 4x here. Then 2 goes here thrice. 2 goes here once. So that gives us 3. Check on your calculator and be sure that x squared plus 4x plus 3 is the correct value. Now that our value for a, or the coefficient of x squared, is positive 1, we can now start using the NYAKEY'S principle to complete the square. So I have this. Now the b in the original question, b is 8. But after taking out the common factor 2, the b now is 4. So between 8 and 4, which one must we use? We must use 4. Because when b is 4, a is positive 1, which is good. Okay, so x plus, what is our b? 4 over 2. Then we square it, we put minus. Then we bring b over 2 again and square it. Then we have our plus 3. Don't forget the c value. So now we have 2 into the square bracket. X 4 over 2 will give us 2. Minus 4 over 2 again will give us 2. Then we square it, don't forget that. So the next line of action is 2 again into the square bracket, x plus 2 all squared minus this bracket will give you 4 plus 3, square bracket close. Now, what is important here is to note that we do not need a square bracket, okay? We do not need a square bracket. So we have 2 first into the square bracket, x plus 2 all squared. Then -4 plus 3 will give us -1 square bracket. But in completing the square, we don't need a square bracket, so we have to expand. We use this 2 and multiply the bracket, and use this 2 and multiply the -1. Take note. So we'll have 2 into x plus 2 all squared, and then minus -1 times 2 will give us -2. Guys, have you seen this? This is quite tricky, but with dedication, you will be able to understand this without going through any difficulty. What did I say? Dedication is very important to what we are doing. So take note of every little step that I'm taking here to solve the problem. Okay, here's another example. We have -3x squared plus 2x plus 5. What is the theory here? Do we have the coefficient of x squared to be equal to 1? No. The coefficient of x squared here is -3. So we are wrong to start immediately by completing the square. What do we need to do? First, we have to take out the common factor. Our common factor now is -3. Or if you don't want to say it that way, just say divide through by -3. So look at it. -3x squared divided by -3. Then we have plus 2x divided by -3. Then we have plus 5 divided by -3. Take time. I'm being very slow here so that this thing will work out for you. So -3 divided by -3, and then we have -2 divided by -3, which cannot go into each other, and this can also not go into each other. Now remember, we have plus, we have minus, we have plus, we have minus. The negative outweighs the positive in this case, if I should say so. So -3, we open the bracket, we have x squared, then we have -2 over 3x, then minus 5 over 3. All you have to do, take your calculator and say +5 divided by -3. It will give you -5 over 3. +2 over -3 will give you -2 over 3. So that is the simplest way that I can use to explain that for you. Now, look, in the initial question, B is 2 here. But at the time B is 2, A is -3. So this is not proper, or it is premature for us to complete the square. Now we've come to the mature stage. A here is +1. So that's good. And now our B is -2 over 3. Now take note. If we want to complete the square, because we have minus here, we have to maintain the minus. But something is going to happen. The whole of this is called B. So -2 over 3 is a B. The formula says we should divide the B by 2. So on your calculator, you should say -2 over 3 divided by 2. That may give you negative 1 over 3. But guys, you need to check it. If there is any error, you should quickly alert us. Now, so that is a point there. Then you have minus, then you introduce again whatever you write here, just here, bring it here. But it is not a positive value, so just put the negative there and square it. Then you come to this point and say, well, my C now is negative 5 over 3. My C is no longer 5. So those are the changes that have taken place. Okay, then you have negative 3. Let's bring the square bracket. Then we have x minus 1 over 3 all squared. Then minus, solve the bracket first. A negative number squared is positive. Now, do it like this. Negative 1 squared will give us 1. But negative 3 squared will give us what? 9. Okay. So remember that. So obviously, this whole thing will become a negative 1 over 3 squared will give us 1 over 9. Then minus 5 over 3. So we have negative 3 square bracket x minus 1 over 3 all squared. Then you say negative 1 over 9 minus 5 over 3. That is hectic. So that can give you negative 16 over 9. Is that correct? Negative 16 over 9. Okay, let's see. So negative 16 over 9. All right. So what are we going to do now? Remember, the square bracket is not needed. So we have to take the coefficient of the entire square bracket, which is negative 3, and multiply everything, bearing in mind that you don't have to expand the round bracket. Okay? Then negative 3 times negative 16 over 9. Remember, negative times negative is positive. Now, 16 over 9 times 3 times 3, yeah, should give us 16 over 3. Let your calculators do the job for you. Well, so at this stage, this is what you are going to get. So this is the final part, okay, of factorizing this by completing the square using the NYAKEY'S principle. I want you to look at this example. When you are viewing this, try to pause the video and go through a few things before you proceed to the next stage. I hope you are listening and you are watching. Yes, learners, this is another one. Negative x squared minus 8x minus 7. Now, what is the rule? Ensure that the coefficient of x squared, which is a, is positive 1. But in this example, the value of a is negative 1. So what shall we do? Take out the negative. So negative 1, let me write it there so that you know that it is 1 there. So negative 1, then I can have negative x squared divided by negative 1. Then I can have negative 8x divided by negative 1. Then I can have negative or minus 7 divided by negative 1. So everything, whatever you take out of the bracket, you must use it to divide through the expression. So negative 1 out of the square bracket. So this one will give us positive 1. So I have x squared. Negative divided by negative will give us positive. 8 over 1, 8. Then negative over negative, positive. Then 7 over 1, 7. So that becomes what we have here. Then the next thing we can do is to complete the square, because the value initially, the value of b was negative 8, but now b is positive 8. Now the value of a is negative 1 here, but the value of a is positive 1 here. So which of the two shall we use? We have to use this one because the coefficient of x squared is 1. Now, so I introduce the bracket. I have plus here, so I maintain plus. Then what do I write here? B over 2. Then I square it, minus. Then I repeat the same thing. B over 2. Then I square it. Then I have plus 7 here. Then the next thing is to simplify. Square bracket, x plus 8 over 2 will give us 4 squared, minus, remember this is 4, so I can just write it here. Or you can say 8 over 2 again is what? 4 squared plus 7. Then what is the next thing? We have minus 1 into square bracket x plus 4, bracket close. 4 squared is 16, so minus 16 plus 7. Okay, minus 16 plus 7. So we come here to say minus 1 into x plus 4 all squared. Then minus 16 plus 7. Do the calculation for me, guys. Minus 16 plus 7 should give us positive 9. Have you got that? As you are watching, you need to do your calculations. So now, what is the most important thing to do here? When completing the square, we do not need the square bracket at a final stage. So the common factor, or whatever the coefficient of the square bracket is, we use it to multiply the bracket and the last term. So we have negative 1 square bracket x, a round bracket, x plus 4 all squared, then negative 1 times 9 will give us negative 9. Now remember, you do not need to write negative 1 in front of the bracket, because a negative bracket simply means there is a negative 1. But to explain things and to make things clear, it is important that I write the value there. So that is why I wrote negative 1 there. Guys, it is very important. Take note of this. Make sure you learn hard and pass. Here is another example. We have 5x squared minus 4x minus 9. So quickly, we know that the coefficient of x squared is positive 5, which does not qualify for us to complete the square. So what do? We take out the 5. We bring a square bracket, then we say 5x squared, okay, divided by 5 minus 4x divided by 5 minus 9 divided by 5. Okay, now, so we go on to the next level. We will have 5 into square bracket. This 5 will divide this 5 to give us x squared. And then we have minus 4 over 5. We don't need to write the decimal. Okay, guys, just maintain the common fraction. Here too, we maintain 9 over 5 because we are not able to simplify it further. Now, you remember that our coefficient here of x squared is 1. So now we can introduce the round bracket. So x minus, because we have minus, if we have plus, put plus. So now what are we going to do here? We have to divide this number by 2. So when we divide this number by 2, on your calculator, you are going to say -4/5 divided by 2. So that will give you -2/5. Everybody is supposed to do that calculation carefully. Then we will also have this same number here, okay? We will also have this same number here, which is -2/5, and then squared. Then the last value is -9/5. So we have square bracket x minus 2/5 all squared. Then this one, we maintain the negative right after the square bracket and simplify this negative squared in a bracket. So we will have 4, because 2 to the power of 2 is 4. 5 to the power of 2 is 25. Then we write the last value, which is our C. So where do we go from here? Well, we have to say 5, okay, square bracket x minus 2/5 all squared. Then we say these two values here, okay, these two values, we must solve them out because they are constants. So that is -4/25 minus 9/5. That should give us -49/25. Is that correct? -49/25. All right, so here, what else do you need to do? Take note that we do not need a square bracket to have our final answer as completing the square. So what you need to do is to make sure that the coefficient of the square bracket is used to multiply out. So, and remember, you do not need to multiply the coefficient of the square bracket by the round bracket while expanding it. Don't expand the round bracket. So you just maintain whatever is inside the round bracket with the square. Then you take this 5 and multiply -49/25, which should give us -49/5. Yes, that should be. Yeah. So this is the final stage of completing the square. So as a result, if we want to factorize this expression by completing the square, we will arrive at this solution. Guys, take note that completing the square has many methods, but what we are using here is what we call the NYAKEY'S principle. And I urge all of you to follow it, learn it, because it is shorter and quicker to arrive at your final solution. Now, learners, I have given you a few questions to look at. We have x squared minus 16x minus 17 minus x squared minus 20x minus 19 minus 2x squared minus 4x minus 2. 6x squared plus 4x minus 2. And the last one is 4x squared plus 17x plus 13. This is your assignment. Try to factorize all these expressions by completing the square. It doesn't matter which method you use. If you are not comfortable with the NYAKEY'S principle, use any method that is at your disposal, get the values, and contact Edgewood Academy via WhatsApp. If all your answers are correct and you did them independently, you are sure of getting more help online from Edgewood Academy. And if you need more help with regard to other topics, you are free to contact Edgewood Academy on +27 31 714 9146. Again, our WhatsApp number is +27 31 714 9146. You can also call us direct on +27 650 353 166. Again, our call number is +27 650 35 166. This is our website address. Feel free to browse and get to our page to learn more about what we are offering at Edgewood Academy. On this note, I just want to say well done, guys, for studying with us. Enjoy the rest of the day during this lockdown. God bless you.